Hi everyone, welcome back to the Stay Hungry podcast. I've got a very special guest for us today. It's Shari Teigman, and we're going to be talking about the mindset for marketing. Shari, welcome to the Stay Hungry podcast.
I want new music on my podcast now after just hearing that music, and I feel special for being called a special guest. Thank you for having me, Joel.
You are welcome. I've been looking forward to this one.
Me too.
So, for our ignorant listeners, give us a bit of background on who you are and why they should listen to you.
That's a long conversation. We can take that up with the whole podcast. But in a nutshell, I am a creative strategist and a performance coach, and I help the non-average Joes and Janes of the world unleash their inner Maverick and figure out what the hell they're doing in their life and business so that they stop following everyone else's rules.
So obviously you've coached me. Let's cards on the table.
I will not disclaim anything here.
No. I think I'm happy for the listeners to know that. So I would describe you as the fuel to my fire.
I love that. Thank you. Shed a tear.
You are welcome. So I'll be like, look, if someone wants to go through something line by line, maybe not Shari. But if
you're definitely not Shari. Well, you can. I'm just not coming along on the lines with you.
But you want someone to give you a kick up the arse and kind of fuel you up, ready to launch, then Shari.
A client of mine last year called me. She's like, "You're Jewish loving New York Nan," and then she goes, "New York Mafia on your ass." I'm like, that's probably about the best, most accurate description of me I've ever heard.
I think the Nan's a bit harsh.
Well, I'm very loving, and then I can use that in a tough love way. I didn't love the Nan thing, but I understood the reference.
They could have said aunt or
sister. Like hot aunt who doesn't think she's 48 years old. I'll go with that.
Boom, there we go. Cool. So we're going to be talking about mindset for marketing today. And the reason I want to talk to you about that is because you understand that to make a success of your marketing, you mentally have to be prepared for it.
Yeah. And for some reason, the other people don't understand that. And they use marketing thinking we can hide behind it. And we absolutely can't.
So tell me what you mean by that.
So marketing, in essence, by definition, is how to present yourself, your product to your audience so that they know, like, trust you, and obviously buy from you and succeed and give you great testimonials and everyone wins. The bit that we forget about is that having your own business and learning to market it is the greatest container for personal development, because it's going to bring up all of your shit you never needed to find a place for, because we don't walk around presenting ourselves in that way. Now, ironically, all of us are in sales and marketing mode all the time, whether you're dating in a new relationship, you are navigating family stuff, you are marketing an idea, a belief system, a presentation of yourself. But a lot of us just do it unconsciously. When it comes to marketing your business, it needs to be more intentional. And a lot of people don't know what ingredients need to go in it. So they'll pay attention to what their business offers, but not who they are in their business that offers it.
And why is that a problem?
Well, you and I both know it lasts for a little while. It goes really well for the first couple of years. We can hide behind our brands. We can nail our brand colors and our voice and our message. And then scale comes, or we try to reach a different audience, or we change our price point. And then we trip over our own stuff. And then there's a misalignment between us and the business, and the business will always reflect it. That's when things, quote unquote, stop working. My marketing plan used to work and now I don't know what to do. It's generally nothing to do with the marketing. The marketing didn't change. It's not a living, breathing entity unless we make it, which I feel like you and Andy really do. But until it gets to the place where it's working for us, we are working for it. And if we're an employee of the business, of the marketing plan that doesn't know how it fits, it's going to reflect immediately to your audience. And it's embarrassing because we don't know what's coming.
That's so interesting. So something I'll ask you in a sec. But I think it might be a bit of a UK specific thing. So I didn't always have Codebreak. I had a different business before Codebreak called Squeak. And it was a design agency, and it very much represented me. It was like wrap me up into something, and that's what it would be. And I could be myself, and people didn't really get it, and that was great. When Codebreak started, and you go into a business partnership, or you start a new business, or you become a member of a board, the temptation is to be like ultra professional and like fit the mold and hide behind the brand, because it's the brand that's the personality, not you. And then turns out that the opposite is true. Like
It never works, and everyone always does it, no matter what size company. It's a human nature thing. Ooh, crap, I better get back in line. I did it when I started my coaching business. I'm the most extroverted, loud, out of the box person, and I still tried to line up. I had the perfect photos, I had the perfect copy, and it wasn't working. I'm like, what's not working? I looked at it, I'm like, who the hell would want to work with that little perfect topper on a cake? Like, we do it, and then we almost have to do it so we find out what we don't want and who we are not, and then we're able to step into it. Some people struggle with that. It's a lot of what I spend my days with, but we do it because we think it'll benefit the business, not realizing it actually, everything suffers, you and the business and the partnerships too.
Yeah, because speaking from personal experience, you become exhausted from being someone you're not.
Yeah.
Because you have to put on a
Your
mask.
ideas don't come out properly. You don't collaborate well. You're always second guessing what someone else says. There's a lot of mistrust and jadedness that comes from not being yourself. I will not use the word authentic. It is not one I like. It's been destroyed by our industries, but it's just the less of you in there, the less of you can show up to solve problems, is really how I look at it.
Yeah, I never thought about how destroyed authentic has been.
Oh, it's painful.
Because true authenticity is the key.
Exactly. And it's the ones who don't talk about it. It's just being it. Just live it.
Yeah, I don't need to go on LinkedIn and tell people.
Nope. Vulnerability alert, authentic alert. Wait, so were you lying the rest of the time when it doesn't like say that first? I'm now curious.
Yeah. That's it. And that's that, like, when you meet a business owner and they're really humble about their success and they're just not desperate to sell to you. And that's the whole reason you want to buy from them.
Absolutely. It's called magnetism. Yep.
So talk to me what it's like to coach maybe hundreds of UK business owners who perhaps are a little bit British before they meet you.
So brace yourself for this. I don't know if you know this fact. So I've had my business for 9 years, and my entire business, I've worked 95% with only UK business owners. I'm a brave soul. Because there are no people to coach in New York, obviously. I needed to go find somewhere else where there
it's a small place. Yeah, it's a quiet place.
There's no one here. They're just tumbleweeds rolling down Times Square. I actually love it. Obviously, if I didn't, I wouldn't put myself in that situation. And here's why I love it. So Brits, listen up. Because Americans, nothing against American listeners, Americans are more used to both the marketing message and the personal development message being, everyone and their dog is on Prozac medication. Like, we talk about our feelings. We are loud. We are, your younger cousins, and we can act ridiculous sometimes. What I love about working with Brits is I have less undoing of what hasn't worked for them in the past. So when it comes to mindset, I'd rather a Brit come with their arms crossed and say, well, this is woolly, I don't know what I need it. And within a session or two, we've got tears, we've got stories they've never told anyone, we've got honesty about their business and what they truly want in their life. Where with Americans, because there's a languaging and a cultural thing that's already there, they're about 3 brick walls till I get to the depth of someone, because they've been pretending for so long. Brits culturally have so much less familiarity with it, especially male, and a lot of my clients are male, that when someone can find the combination lock with safety and trust, the floodgates open, which to me is the most beautiful part of it. And I think as a New Yorker, I'm more akin to Brits than I am Americans anyway, because none of us are fine. And there's just a lot of, just raw, real conversations, good swear or two, although you guys definitely win in the swearing creativity category. So I actually love it because I feel like I have a window in, but I'm different enough that I don't remind someone of their mother or their sister or their wife. Because I'm bold, people are drawn to the fact like, fuck it, if she talks like this, I can show her what I've never showed anyone else. I don't have to be scared to talk about money like a lot of Brits are. I'm not afraid to talk about my emotions because Shari looks like she can hold it. So I think the juxtaposition of difference makes me easier to come to than someone who grew up like you. We don't have the class system built into where I grew up. So I come with a different filter that makes people trust that they could do something different with me, I think.
Yeah, I love that. Certainly that's how I like talking to you. And I think you're right about the New York thing. There's a reason so many Brits like New York, and it's because it's like its own country within America. It's got a slightly, it's like Californian attitude with kind of some kind of weird angry.
Exactly. It's a perfect blend. So British. We have a little British anger.
Just less sarcasm than the Brits. Yeah. So, but you're not right. You're not right about the creative swearing. You clearly haven't spent enough time in Little Italy because, wow.
Well, I think it's the accent and the oomph in which it happens, but Brits are definitely more creative with the word combinations. That's my take on things.
Like cockwomble or something.
Amazing like word. I have a sweary coloring book and it has cockwomble in it, and I'm saving it for last because
I'm assuming you know what a womble is.
I don't know what a womble is, but I know what a cockwomble is. I know a lot of them actually. What's a womble?
So the Wombles of Wimbledon, common are we?
Sorry about that.
She's a popular lady. Probably Nick James asking where you are. So, the Wombles of Wimbledon are a children's program. It's like I think it's stop motion. So they come out when there's no one around and they clean up. They're like these weird little creatures that like clean up. So I don't really know why it's offensive to be a womble, but
well, if we're going to talk about British children's programming from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, well, probably 70s and 80s and earlier, there's a lot to be said for Mr. Blobby's freakiness. There's
that's Captain, 90s. That's 90s.
That's 90s. Got Captain Pug something.
Pugwash, yeah.
Right, Captain Pugwash. Does anyone know the names of the characters?
You've been lied to about that. That's like a ongoing myth.
Really?
They weren't really called Seaman Staines, and
that makes me sad because I think it was amazing.
Yeah,
British children's things from early years have a lot to answer for, and I absolutely love it. So do the street signs. Let's be honest.
Yeah, cartoons. I'm trying to think of really weird cartoons. Wait till you Google like the Herbs. That's going to blow your mind.
God. I'm going to make a list. You have to make me a list, Joel.
A very friendly lion called Parsley.
Wow.
Yeah. That's absolutely thrown me. I can't even remember what we were talking about. So people are willing to be more vulnerable with you because of the cultural difference, but familiarity at the same time. And like I know several examples of people. There's a famous hat maker we both know who I know has been incredibly vulnerable with you and achieved a lot off the back of that. Yeah. And he's a top guy. You've seen our business go from absolutely flying but chaotic to not on its arse, but certainly going through some turbulent times, and then come out the other side.
And in those turbulent times, most people will then zip up, tuck in, attempt to cancel calls. And I think the draw is that I'm going to climb into the foxhole. So I'm not afraid of a wobble. It doesn't mean what it means to me that it means to you in the moment. So the reason why that's the beneficial time to work on stuff in your business is because that's when we find out what happens in habits and patterns keep playing out that do make the roller coaster ride what it is, or do put that ceiling on our next level of success with our marketing plan, our mindset, or both combined. And if we don't do it then and we wait till things go down, or I have clients who attempt to do like, well, I'll call you when things are good. I'm like, no offense, you're the least interesting version of yourself when things are good. I want to know what's going on the rest of the time because that's when we get the ingredients to play with and move around.
Yeah. And I think it's, for a business owner, it's when you're in those struggles, you find out what you're really made of.
100%.
But you also find out if you're on the right journey, is probably
And you find out if what you said you want is what you want. How
yeah,
many
yeah,
we made together where, because it was what you wanted, whether it was numbers, type of clients, things or that. And when you let all the puzzle pieces fall apart a bit, I'm not saying let it fall apart, but drop certain, sometimes it's a team member who's holding people back and we work around them. Like, what elephants in the room are happening? Sometimes, most of the time, placed there by us because we decided this is what success is going to mean or look like. And until we do that, we won't look at any peripheral metrics, which is where all the magic happens.
yeah. And something that you've been great for me with is, I think from talking to me that I operate from a place of integrity.
Yes.
But the moment that I try and do anything that conflicts with that, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
And I had an example today, actually, just before we started recording. I had a sales call with a kickboxing academy, and he'd spoken to 2 other agencies, and we got to the end of the sales call. I said, "You don't need any of us. You don't. We're not what you need. You don't need an agency. An agency is going to kill your business."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Is this reverse psychology?" And I said, "No, I'd love
How
to work."
sad that someone would even ask that in the way that people sell in our world. God.
Yeah. And I said, "No, like, I love your business. I'd love nothing more than to get my hands on it. I can definitely get you loads more leads, but in the time it would take for that to start to return for you, you'll run out of money. So we're not going to do it." And then I referred them to a mutual friend of ours who I know could blow their business up hugely and works with people in the personal training industry day in, day out. And I think when I've been in periods of kind of not desperation, but when times are hard, you don't necessarily apply yourself with the same level of integrity.
Let's just say we make different decisions from different mindsets, and we have to be honest with ourselves about that, because then we it happens in a ripple. We make the decision and we don't realize it till 3 or 4 months later, when, let's say, we look at a client roster and be like, how the hell did I end up with these people? How did this happen? Because we don't realize it in the moment unless we're paying attention and we're doing the work to see it's not only a now decision, it's a ripple effect decision. And we want to get really clear, even in the chaos, to say, what am I creating from this place that I'm not going to be happy with after? Because it's about forward movement, but not plowing over yourself to get there.
Yeah. And that plowing over yourself thing is something most business owners never get to grips with.
Well, we call it hustle. We call it drive. We call it we're the 1%. We call it we're supposed to cry at night. Like, listen, I'm both, as I am trademarking, I'm both woo and do. So I'm absolutely a doer. I'm a big believer in action taking. You can't sit on top of a mountain and manifest whatever the hell you want with just doing that. But the state and flow in which you function is what's going to make the action taking worth the time and energy. So it's like, save that energy, use it as a sniper instead of a machine gun, and then you'll get where you want faster, intentionally, with integrity, without forgetting who you are in the midst, because there was a goal someone else put on the goalpost and you're just running towards it like a bull who's no idea what the hell's going on, just sees red, which is what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah. That whole throw as much shit at the wall and see what sticks mentality.
Yeah. And then try to repeat it. That's cute.
Yeah. Love that.
That's scalable. Yeah.
Yeah. What's marketing? Well, it should be scalable, predictable, and profitable. What have you been doing? Just
swinging from panic attack to a panic attack. It seems to work for everyone else.
So why Brits? What, other than the synergy, why do you work with Brits?
I think because from an entrepreneurial place, it's a younger market. It's a few years behind, let's say, America, Australia. I find when people are ready, they're more ready rather than they've had lots of years trying different things. I don't know, there's something about this sometimes ridiculously annoying, sarcastic culture where, like, to get someone to do something, they have to get so uncomfortable with themselves to be vulnerable. I think when that readiness comes, they're unstoppable. It's a more provincial mentality of, you do know people you could reach out to, like the the man we love, Matt Elwell, best salesman in the world, will say, pick up your computer phone. Who do you know that's in your phone? That's an easier thing to do. You want to go meet people. You can get on a trainer in your car within a few hours and be in an entirely different environment. There's something both provincial and global at the same time about the UK market that really works for me, because Brexit or not Brexit, you're close to Europe. You can be creative. You can think bigger, and yet there's still a very much British way of doing things. And I think the Mavericks of the world, which you are one of them, like to take that and turn it on its head. And it's an easier playground for us to play with that, because we know what people think and we know how to move them to think differently.
Yeah, 100%. There's definitely an old school way of doing things in Britain.
Yeah.
And there are a few businesses now that are lighting that on fire.
Absolutely. But yet still keeping, like you said, even you're a perfect example. You keep the integrity of the old school and the respect of what matters, and then you turn it. You don't turn it for the sake of turning it. It's not a rebellion. It's a out of the box.
Yeah, that's so true. So like we sell in the States, for example, and one clear difference between the US market and the UK market is an American can naturally spot a call to action.
Yeah.
Like they get bombarded with them. So a call to action to them is like, oh, that's because they're trying to get me to do something.
Yeah.
Where a UK person sees it as an invite.
Absolutely. And they ask a different question than an American would.
Yeah. So it's like that command versus kind of nurture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I find that really interesting, because when we are working over here, whether it's coaching, consultation, done for you, some of our techniques seem insane.
Yeah.
And it business owners are like, well, why would you do that? So I want to give you a fuck ton of visibility. I want you to be like,
hold please, you'll find out.
yeah. And then they come back and they're like, right, I'm absolutely everywhere, but we're not making any sales yet. So, well, we haven't done that bit yet.
Right.
And it's
amazing.
Yeah. And I think there's like this real like hankering over here that people want to send one email and job done, right? I've done my marketing for the year.
That's the bit that I love. It's that discomfort. It's that tuck it in. Like I have, all my friends are in the UK as well. And my friend has a goddaughter who's 5, and she's been through stuff in her life. And when I met her, she was about 3 or 4 and she would not dance. And I know this is a crazy example, but her mom was more buttoned up. Her gran was more buttoned up, and there was just no dancing. Now, I'm sorry. I think everyone should add dancing to their life, but 3 and 4-year-olds need to be able to dance just to take up space in the world and feel themselves and know who they are for them. And in that same example, it's that you have the bravery and courage to want to go out and build your business. And then there's I don't think I'm allowed to do that. Like, that's too bold. That's a bit bullshit. I didn't grow up like that. We don't do that. And there's that dance where I feel like you and I both toe that line and ride the edge of, well, what if you did? And let's just try this. And if you don't like it, we'll go back. And it's just that cranking open for that internal excitement about your business, that idea that like, I have something that helps someone, product, service, whatever it is. Let's get it out in the world of like, oh, I should wait my turn. Amazon doesn't wait their turn. Sainsbury's doesn't wait their turn. I mean, advertising works in the UK. It's not like it doesn't work. It's just, how are you going to position it where you're not going over the top American, where people, it's too much, and where are you being respectful of how people like to digest and yet intrigue them? And I think it has to do with that, are we allowed to dance sort of mentality that we like to pop open in people.
Yeah. And the psychology in the UK is not about how many people like you. It's worrying about how many people don't like you.
You can't even be a ginger in your country without getting abuse. I mean, come on, it's a hair color. And that's exactly it. So that internal fear comes from not like supermarket sweep, gathering as many people as you can, like it may be in another country, but there it's, how safe will I be if I go bigger? What will happen to me? How far away from being able to connect to the people, my friends, my family, the crowd that I know, the level that I operate at work, my coworkers, my competition, like, can I be loud and also quiet? It's a really interesting psychological study, I must say.
And then when you get close to the truth, so for me, in the last 3 years, the honest truth is I've upset more people, lost more friends, and caused more havoc than the rest of my life combined. But I've gained more friends and gained more business and felt more myself than the rest of my life combined.
When we shed what is holding us from that, then we have space for more. And it's that simple and that scary.
Yeah. And I find myself now in conversations that I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be in, purely from being myself.
Yeah, I love it.
It's like, and you've kind of helped lift me up to this point, but you know fully well that I was at a launch of an app last week.
Yeah.
In a room full of celebrities.
Yeah. And it didn't even faze you.
No, like I was late.
You belonged.
So, I wasn't late. I was on time, but on time for me is late. So
Fashionably late.
Yeah. And to be fair, I had to get there from Glasgow, so I did well. But yeah, that kind of like, and I talk about getting out of your comfort zone a lot, but British people's comfort zone is incredibly narrow compared to other cultures.
Yes, it is. And they like it. It's a badge of honor. That's the thing. It's not something they don't like.
Yeah. A cup of tea in front of the fire is like,
this is the way we do it.
Yeah, the dream.
Like, we don't even spell like that, Shari. What are you doing? Like, what's the reset is have a cup of tea, even in emotions. Like, we all joke about it, but have a cup of tea and move and get on with it. Like, that is an entire generation, only a generation or two away from us. Like, that's where we're operating from. Like, shove it back in, drink something hot and everything will be fine. Like, there are bombs around you. It's fine.
Yeah. So here's a name drop. So I was chatting to Gary V earlier this year.
Say it again.
I was chatting to Gary V earlier.
Mean Gaz, yeah.
Yeah, you know, Gary, got him on Discord, my pal now. So, and he was like, you know, the issue with British people. Oh, I said, oh, go on. And he said, everything in Britain is or. So you're right or you're wrong. It's black or it's white.
It's unbelievable.
And he said, the best thing that you could do is learn that everything is and. And
Gary and I speak the same language. I call it the glorious and. That comma, and it's also just different. It's not right or wrong. He's 100% correct on that, even though I said it's not right or wrong. It's this black and whiteness that people, even if they don't think the yes or the no, think they have to pick a tune and stick to it.
Yeah. So I'm like in this weird space now, partly because of some of the communities I'm in where I'm like a scientific, logical guy. I like things just so. I like there to be an answer. And I'm like finding myself talking to people who are like psychic mediums, bloody crystal sellers.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely fascinated.
And most importantly, you're absolutely fine because it isn't threatening who you are.
Yeah, I've completely dropped that British need to prove someone wrong.
Where the tone goes up, you sound like a headmaster of a school. The lip goes like curls up aside, like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
You can think that it's wrong, but okay.
And like, I mean, I'm in a great place with it, but it's that whole like, what if nobody is right and nobody is wrong?
Amen.
And that's a really fun playground.
Sure is.
So what's next for you?
Ooh, well, that's a great question. I am going to be over in the UK more, kind of expanding. So pre-COVID, I used to be over a lot when I was only running my own business. Now I run my own business and I do the Expert Empires coaching. So I used to hold workshops all the time, every couple of months, ran VIP days and things like that. And I'm missing a lot of the peopling. So I'll be doing a lot more in front, in face, for both sides of my business in the UK. And I'm just missing the people part. Ironically, people assume I'm very extroverted. I think it's because I'm very loud. I'm actually a real ambivert. Like when I am on, I am all on. And when I am off, I am the biggest hermit you've ever met in your life. So the past couple of years have been, I love the hermiting. I was very happy with it. I'm good on Zoom, shut it off an hour, you get all of me and then I can chill out. But I'm craving the connection again. So I've got some big ideas on how to look at performance differently, how to look at the creative strategy within us before we face our business kind of thing. I have 7 books in my head, but book number 1 is now being written about the Maverick brain and why we do what we do and why we have to stop trying to be like everyone else. So that is in flow at the moment.
That's really exciting. Really, really exciting.
That's a lie. It's not in flow. It's in Shari spurts. Let's be honest. It's in spurts at the moment.
So yeah, so I won't tell you that I wrote my book in 30 days and you need to get it done.
Well, I'm either going to be that person or it's going to take me forever and I write 15,000 words in 10 minutes and then I don't touch it again for a week, which is most likely more my speed.
I had to force myself to do 2,000 words a day or it just never would have happened. Never would have happened. So it's interesting you say that because I'm a loud introvert. So I'm actually really shy and no one knows.
Are you? Yeah, I can't even believe you.
Yeah. So Ryan Pinnock, a mutual friend of ours, the other day, I spoke to him. I said, I've never spoken to you before, Ryan, but I've been in the room with you about 20 times. And he said, I've never seen you before.
And what I love about Ryan is he'll actually say it, not just think it.
Yeah. So he said, I've never seen you before. Are you sure? I was like, yeah, I've been in the room with you like more than 20 times. And I said, I just couldn't pluck up the courage to come and say hello and introduce myself. Because generally I wait for people to introduce themselves to me. And he was like, but you're so confident. And I'm like, no, I'm a loud introvert. It's different. It's like I shout my way through the pain.
This is intentional work, right?
Yeah. But the doors it opens by sort of getting yourself into a mindset of, wow, the and mindset, kind of like what will happen if I actually say hello to someone?
Yeah, it can be scared and ready at the same time.
Yeah, so a tactic I used, I think you probably saw me do this and probably knew what I was doing. But this was a mindset trick as well. So I came to Expert Empires at Wembley in March, and there's a celebrity couple that are part of the group. I won't name them because that's not fair. But
we love them.
They were getting, I mean, before we came on this podcast, you said you felt like Minnie Mouse because the amount of people that wanted selfies with you.
She actually said to me, oh God, you had a me day today. I said, I absolutely did.
Yeah, exactly that. And so I really noticed as soon as this couple arrived that everyone was like hassling them. And I was chatting to a friend of theirs who I just happened to know, and he was like, yeah, they're getting bombarded. They just want to come here and absorb, and they're not going to.
She and I both got followed into the bathroom, and we have not stopped joking about it.
Yeah, that's just fucking bullshit. Like,
whoever you want to come in with me because I just, it's fine, but just don't take any pictures.
Yeah, like whoever did that, sort your shit out. That's weird. So, anyway, I deliberately made a beeline to sit next to them, which sounds like I'm going against everything that I just said. But I sat next to them for 3 days at Expert Empires, and I treated them exactly like I treat everybody else. I didn't ask for a picture. Didn't ask about their careers. I just said, what did you think of that speaker? What did you write down there? Interested to know what you thought of that. And now, lo and behold, I'm working with them. Yeah. But that took so much courage from me, which is, I don't mind being vulnerable in saying that, to push my mindset to a place where I'm like, look, I really want to give myself the opportunity. I don't want to make a dick of myself. And I also don't want them to feel like they're being hassled. And I don't even know how to explain that, but that's the mindset you need for marketing.
Well, I can explain it. What you did was you went internal to external rather than external to internal, which is what most people do. So from a marketing perspective, we have the outside face of the business of ourselves. Like I said, we're marketing at all times. And when we use the outside external view or data or input or output to define what happens inside, we can drive ourselves crazy. It'll work for a short period of time, but when we aren't sure who to be, we'll flip to the external, which is always changing and moving, because you can market to 10 people, 4 people will love it and buy it, 2 people will block you. It has nothing to do with what said it. It's their experience, internal to external. So what you did was you came inside, you figured out what you wanted your end result to be, which was connection and collaboration and seeing them as people and treating them as people and being seen as a person. So you got out of your own way to come out in a different way, which is why it worked in connection, because it wasn't showing up how they're used to from external to internal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the way you just made me think of something that someone said to me in the past, but if you want to prove that to yourself, go and commit a crime and then ask for all the witness statements. Yeah. and the perception of that crime will be entirely different from all 10 people that saw it.
And they're all true.
Yeah. And then that's where we get back to the realm of there's no right or wrong, because
Absolutely.
it's all perception.
The example I use is if you're getting dressed for a big occasion and you're using a funhouse mirror, like that's never going to work, but that's what we do all day long in our lives. And then we wonder why we're exhausted at the end of the day, why we're constantly people managing or always on the defensive, is because we aren't coming from us. We're coming from them and trying to fit in everywhere. We can't, that's ever changing.
So I'm going to talk about something slightly difficult now, but we've both had our demons, let's say. So you had a very tricky relationship prior to doing what you do now. And now you shout from the rooftops and from stages. How did you go from where you were to building the mindset and the resilience to do what you do now?
I love the question. Thank you for asking it so beautifully. This is a big piece of my work and I used it. This is why I teach it so much. I stepped into a different archetype version of myself. So I teach a lot about archetypes, which you will start learning in Expert Empires when I roll it out. I have a lot of versions of me, as we all do. So picture a deck of cards, different experiences, how we behave with other people. It doesn't mean we're two-faced. It doesn't mean we're schizophrenic and have split personality disorder. Although if you do, I love you too. And there's always stuff we can work with. This is about amplifying parts of myself that I wasn't using in other areas and finding out where my strengths and weaknesses were so that I could feel safe in any environment. So what I did was I took a look at who I was in my life at the time. And what Joel is referencing is I was a Stepford wife in a little bubble community. I grew up right outside New York City. I grew up modern Orthodox Jewish, very traditional. As you can already hear from me, I don't really fit the mold. I loved a lot of it. A lot of it did not work for who I was. I went through a tough divorce and decided to, well, I didn't decide to. I was dragged by my nose to figure out who I wanted to be, because what I was moving away from was just what I didn't want. When all of that calmed down to a degree where I could kind of, get the adrenaline down and take a look at things, I had no idea who I was because of what I just talked about. I was living external to internal.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I didn't go through all of that to then go wear another label or to become something else to someone else. So I went on a journey to figure out what it was about me, the stuff that drives me crazy, the things that piss me off about myself, the things that I hold shame about, and then the strengths that I don't notice because, flippantly, I'll say, I'm just like that. People find it easy to talk to me or whatever. And I took all of those pieces and I put it together and I created who I wanted to be going forward. And that meant the habits and the rituals, the beliefs, the CEO version of myself, how can I fulfill my purpose in the world, being the person, what does that girl look like? What does she need in her toolbox? That most of it I already had, other than making a different combination cocktail of it. It's almost like having a switchboard in front of you, turning on elements of you that you need more of, turning down what gets you tangled in your own feet. And for me, obviously, the archetype was being the Maverick. So the Maverick is someone who is out of the box and individual. They aren't necessarily rebelling, although I have a rebellious streak to me. I see the world in a different way. And instead of trying to tuck that in and try to fit in, which didn't work, I decided, what if I create a world where I help people see the view that they want? Nothing, they don't need my view. I hardly understand my view some days, but to expand what that looks like. And then I found out who I needed to be to do that. So I rebuilt myself from scratch.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Now, if you meet someone who's been friends with me for 30 years, they'll be like, oh my God, you're exactly the same. Here's the thing. I forgot it. It was all there. So I had to rejig the puzzle to be what it looked like in the first place before society, religion, culture, relationships, have-tos took that all away. But in the essence, it just brings us back to home in the first place. And people say it to me, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, why didn't you fucking tell me that I was that? I had no idea. But it's not about other people telling, but it's so interesting. It's like, I don't want to be someone different. No, it's actually becoming more of you.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. Like, I've been through a very similar experience. And I would say that when I was going through that experience, when I was with friends, if I'd had a couple of drinks, I would fall into being my true self. If I had a couple more, no, that's something else.
Yeah.
But that, when you sort of take the belt off, so to speak, I'd fall into being my true self. But that's the person I repressed, the person that I hate the most. So you like,
which is the most confusing because like I feel the most me, and then it takes me so long to recover from it. So it can't be me. And that's when I call it finding your edge. Like, what is that razor sharp piece that is all of the parts of you combined, but that doesn't deplete you?
yeah. So like I remember as a teenager and in my early 20s, I was like the most competitive guy. I was so competitive. Like I just wanted to not win at all costs. I didn't cheat, but anything but cheating, and I wanted to win. So like, and then that flowed through me. So I was loud in that sense. I really wanted to win. I really wanted the people around me to come with me. So I wanted them to win too. And all those things, society, life, abusive parent kind of forces you to repress or tells you is wrong. And then the really exciting thing about being a business owner is they're all the things you need to succeed.
I agree. And I think it's when we get to use all the things that we didn't think were okay and say, wait a second, this would actually make my customer experience better. This would make my sales process better. This would make my marketing stand out because I've got all these pieces I don't use anywhere. Where else do we get to use them? That infused in a good plan, in a good strategy is absolutely magical for us and for our customer.
Yeah. And it's so much fun. It's just like
so much fun.
It's
like I honestly, most of the day walk around like, am I allowed to do like have this much fun every day? Yeah.
So like, let's be honest. You've got a hand behind you giving the middle finger on the shelf, and you asked me if it's okay to have that on the podcast.
I like to be all myself, and I also don't like to push that on other people.
100%. I completely appreciate that. But I also know that if you were just doing work for you,
yes,
that hand stays in the picture.
There would be 5 of them. So it's about respecting my edge and knowing that, well, if I don't fit in a room, I won't be in it, but I also represent bigger things and I need to be that within that. I'd wear a fuck you t-shirt on stage. On my own events, I wear a troublemaker. I wouldn't show up to a speaking gig unless they knew that with that on, because I'm not only representing me. I can't tell you that I'm going to be a race car driver and represent 16 different companies either. But if I'm plugging into something else, then I'll still be the Maverick. And I can also, like I said earlier, can follow some rules that don't diminish my Maverick.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'd argue that your purpose isn't to fit into the room. Your purpose is to lift the room up.
Exactly, but in a respectful way that still makes sense to the rest of the room. I don't need to shine, and that's surprising to most people.
But that's the skill of marketing, right?
Exactly.
So you're not, and something I've talked about on the podcast before, you're not the main character, you're the guide. And so
correct. I think in marketing, we represent, so who people see me as, and I hope this doesn't come off egoic. It's just the marketing persona. I represent hope. I represent next level. That doesn't mean on a Wednesday morning when I'm home by myself, I'm your hope and next level. I'm probably driving myself crazy like you drive yourself crazy, but it's what does my marketing message, me personified, give you that people will say, I wish I had you on my shoulder. I keep you in my pocket. You're the pocket rocket. Like it's because the elements of me that they need, they plug into. I work with 8 and 9 figure businesses. I never made 8 or 9 figures. I never pretended to be. I don't claim that. But the element I bring is the one cog that goes in that makes all the lights go on. So I have to make sure that I stay very clear as to how bright that is and where I don't start leaking into that I can be your everything. I can't be. I wouldn't want to be. I tried it. It exhausted me.
Yeah. This is what I can guide you on.
Exactly.
Take it or leave it. Yeah.
And I know plenty of people who can take, you need marketing. I'll do the overall plan with you. I had the conversation with someone this week that you and I talked about earlier in the week and name dropped because not only because I love you, but because you're the right piece for them. It's like, who I would give you is this guy. So there's also the aspect of when you get your marketing persona and right, your position is then respected not only in what you do, but in the integrity in which what you don't do, because I have a line that I won't cross, and then you can trust me even more.
Yeah. I love that. And then once you've built the trust, that's when you cross the line.
Game on. There are no lines anymore. Yeah. Complete chaos.
So, what's the kind of biggest thing you see holding people back when it comes to the right mindset for their marketing?
Love the question. Depends on level of business, but I'll give an overall answer and then I'll explain why I say level of business. I
Sure.
think it's becoming the person that the business needs you to be. Some of my clients will call me, I'm like the mediator, like the marriage counselor for them, between them and their business. What we don't realize is it is an entity outside of us, yet it has a lot of us in it. So if in our life and in our self-identity and self-worth, we don't match up with that business, the business will topple over on us. If we focus too much on ourselves, we won't be helping the business at all. And the business will be too small to hold the greatness of transformation that's happening within us. So it's teaching people how to keep communicating with the business without having whatever the business says define them, or vice versa. It's great information. Let me go home and play with it. And I do crazy exercises with clients where I'll do a board of directors scene in their minds. You are at the helm as the business owner. There's a seat for fear. There's a seat for drive. There's a seat for past experiences in other companies. There's a seat for the inner child who never gets listened to. And each one literally has its own paper and its own colored pen. And it will give you the view of the business. And then you bring them all together and then you understand what's not working. You don't need a team member, a team of 10 to tell you. You have it all in there. Yeah, you want to have team members that help you do things, but at the phase of business where you're ready for scale, until you turn into the CEO of yourself, your business will be crippled. And it doesn't matter how many people you hire, and it doesn't matter how many mentors you have, the driving force will be you. And you have to strip back many of the qualities that got you from zero to where you are in order to, shed the fuselage, so to speak, to get to the next level. And sometimes it's the things that we think we're best at that we have to maneuver around. Like, I'll give you myself as an example proudly. I'm an overgiver. I'm a mama bear. I love on people. It absolutely crippled the growth of my business. I was in friend zone. Everyone would come to me for free. I adored it. I needed it at the time. And they went and hired everyone else. So I was on every podcast. I was on every stage. Everyone knew my name and I could not pay my bills. And I created that. So I needed to take the strength of how I love, which is one of my strengths, and change it to serve people differently, because I was stopping my business from growing and my customers from actually doing the work that made them see me as the important element I was, and not just their busy mate who held all their shit and then they could feel better 10 minutes later. So it's sometimes our strengths, if we lean on them too hard, become our weaknesses when it comes to scaling the business.
Yeah, that whole and I've been there. You overpromise and overdeliver, and then you learn.
Yeah, and then we feel good about it. Let's not lie. There's an ego trip too, and like a pride of we're on purpose. We're doing what we promised. We're not like other people. But what is it? How we can't scale that. I'm one person. I'd be up 24 hours a day.
Oh yeah,
And I love it.
it would work in like caveman society where
Exactly.
we all just trade. So it
Correct.
feels very natural. But then
Correct.
when you get to modern society where you need to fit in with this capitalist structure, you
Yeah.
actually need to get paid for doing this stuff. So
And the part that sucks the most is that because when people pay, they pay attention, they don't even value it in the way that you gave it with such a full heart or with such full motivation to serve, because everywhere else, the rules are different. And we don't, as much as I love to break and change rules, that one's a harder one to change, because I ended up positioning myself lower as a throwaway, or they'd pay 97 quid to come to a workshop, but that's not who they're hiring one-to-one, because they didn't see me at that level because I didn't put myself there.
yeah, which is why
so much.
Like when you talk to when we talk to business, when you talk to businesses, it's like, I just want to do something low ticket to bring a bit of money in, and you have to be like, hang on. If you start there,
Exactly.
people will never pay you what you're worth.
Now it's interesting because I'm now positioned differently, and I do have high ticket. A week and a half ago, I just ran a launch where I'm running a 4-week live experience with me that I'm filming live as we go, because I was in the mood to, it's under 300 quid. I sold out the 20 spots in no time. It's a nice way to make $7,000. I was in the mood to serve. I had an idea that came to me in the shower, obviously, wrote it down in a note in my phone, and that was the structure of my program. And you could probably imagine how many messages I got and said, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing that? And I said, because I can. Because now it doesn't affect what I look like. Before, that's all people saw. Now I look generous and nice, like, oh my God, I get to access Shari that way. And I'm having a blast with the people who could never access me, who would never join Mastermind, who could never pay for one-to-one for 6 months with me. So I get the need for service validated and fulfilled. I love to give free stuff people don't use. This was a perfect segue, but it's because my marketing now works for me instead of against me.
Yeah. And I'd argue it's still high ticket enough that people take notice.
Yes. Yes, it's not mass market. And to the point that I've got people signed up for the next round because there was this taste that they got that it's never going to get this again. I want it.
So that moves me quite nicely onto sort of the next thing. How do you, especially British people, we keep coming back to that point. How do you teach a UK business owner that it's okay for some people to not like you?
I first work on why the not liking is so important for them, because they'll use it through the business and blame the competition and blame the structure and blame their metrics. And it has nothing to do with that.
Okay. That's really interesting.
Very uncomfortable. I make a lot of people cry.
So what is it to do with?
If our businesses represent us, which they do on a good day with good marketing plan and a good persona, they also represent all of our darkness and all of our fears. So if we don't address the darkness and the fears from internal out, the business can't sustain growth in a marketplace, growth in an industry, standing up to competition, standing up to the big boys, standing up to boutique or a different angle. It's not a 3D version of a business, like a solid bulletproof marketing, if there are holes in it, you being the hole. So we go straight at it. Well, if someone said this, what would it do? Sometimes it's polarizing and disruptive enough to make you the greatest darling in the industry, but you have to be ready for that. And because it comes from inside, we have to prepare the person for what that does to them separately from what it does for the business.
Yeah. That whole Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
100%. And it's absolutely terrifying when you see the business going well and you feel completely unsafe and you're thinking, I just created my own Frankenstein. Now it's running without me and I'm not okay.
Big wake-up call for business owners that are listening to this. When your business starts to grow at speed, expect it to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not the fun bit. You just didn't get up to worrying about that part yet.
Yeah. And you will get used to the feeling, but it doesn't go away.
Well, what I teach people is it doesn't go away, but it's a clue for success rather than a clue of, oh shit, I better go backwards. It's, oh, I'm in a new level of the video game now. I just need some new tools or some, another sword in my pocket that I didn't need in level 1.
Yeah.
So learning to grow with it instead of, oh, let's crank this back a little bit because now I'm out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, new level, new devil. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's so true. And it's so interesting when we've experienced it with our business that we became a 7-figure business, but we weren't prepared for it.
Yes. It's usually what happens. It's generally accidental. And then everyone goes, oh shit. It's like when a kid learns to ride a bike, someone takes the stabilizers off and they have their hand on your butt and you don't realize they're gone. You're riding fine till you turn around and realize no one's there. And only then do you fall.
Yeah.
It's the same exact idea.
And that first fall comes hard.
And shocking because you're tootling along being so proud of what you've built. Look at me, this shit works.
Yeah. So then you go through this whole period of getting yourself back to that point, and that comes with a whole new load of shit.
Well, now you're scared of the sidewalk, and now you're scared of what other people say, where you didn't get up to worrying about that because you just had destination in mind. Now there are all these other things that pop up. You didn't realize you needed systems. You didn't realize you have to learn how to explain things outside of your head to have someone help you because you can't scale your time otherwise. Most of my business owners find that to be the hardest part. Like I say it too, can someone just go in, read it, and then spit it out in a way that makes sense in a spreadsheet or in a way that's repeatable in an SOP or something. My brain is not repeatable. It runs me, not the other way around. So that growth piece actually makes us feel like a beginner, very bored, very impatient with the people around us, because most of our greatest strength is the speed and creativity in which we create. Your growing business needs the opposite of that for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you first start in business, that first time you do a £500 quote or £1,000 quote and you get that like nervous feeling, that That's the same feeling you get when you do a £250,000 quote.
Totally. And if you do the same, it's a fluke. They didn't mean it. They're going to pull out. Like, I wish it was like when you go to the ice cream shop and you get 9 punches and the 10 ice creams free. Like, you still have to feel that every single time, no matter how many rounds of this you've done.
Yeah. But I love that, but I never used to.
I love it too, but that's what I mean. When we learn to look at the clues of like, oh, I'm now getting where I want to say because this stuff is coming up again, other than how the hell am I here again? Like, why do I keep, I must not be good at what I do if I keep landing here.
Yeah. So like, how does someone, without kind of pre-framing the question too much, how does someone act like they deserve to be at the level they're at?
This is always a hard part because I don't believe that fake it till you make it. I think it's a very dangerous psychological game to play with yourself. I think it's in the micro commitments to yourself of what do you need? And this is boring, but our nervous systems really run what we do. Let's be honest. So if I'm going to be in a new environment and be proud of myself, but then freak the living hell out of myself while I'm there, I lose regardless of what it looks like on the outside. So what I don't want is people put themselves in the bigger room. People add zeros to what they're charging. They do play a bigger game. And then the hangover from it is so bad that then they hide for 3 months. Your marketing won't work and your mindset won't work and you won't do it again. So it's about regulating your nervous system to the uncertainty to say, what's the next micro move that will make me feel safe? How will I know when the tiger's coming? And how will I know I'm just a little scared? And fear and excitement is the same chemical in our body. So how are we managing ourselves in the growth is really the answer to that. And it is in the self-care rituals before and after. Olympic athletes spend right before their performance, spend so much more time in rest mode than they do in performance mode for this exact reason. You're preserving energy. We are energy efficient humans. So if we, pardon my crass, but I don't know how else to say it, is if we blow our load 24 hours a day, we've got nothing left in order to come back to it. Sorry, Joel, couldn't help myself. Joel delicately tips his teacup.
I took a sip. Yeah, I took a sip.
Took a sip, took a breath. See, I went over the line. It is what it is. If we're constantly pressing ourselves to growth that scares us, we have no safety regulation to be able to continue going. On the other hand, if we learn to take a step forward and then take a rest on the bench that's right there and be like, oh, look at me, I'm good. For example, you get up on stage in front of 600 people and it was great and everyone's waiting to talk to you. Go off to the side and take 3 breaths and feel your feet on the ground. Like down to human basics. Have I eaten? Have I drank? Am I okay? Not running for, like, I know you spent a week in America surrounded by the most amazing people. You had to get grounded to not lift off and forget who you were in the moment, because you never would have been able to come home with the lessons and the juicy stuff to plug back into your business and life, because you shot too far into the stratosphere to then re-regulate. So it's about the regulation, which is how we then use what's coming in to then get to our next level, instead of all the way up, then drop all the way down. Because then there's none of us in any of that.
Oh, let's be honest. I had to spend 5 days in the woods to sort.
Which was the best thing you did before you came home, because you're coming back and getting your sea legs back.
Yeah, and I mean, it was my reality at the time, but I can't come back to my team and be like, Snoop Dogg says we should do this.
By the way, if that's not the most amazing line I've ever heard in my life.
But it's so true. And just to be clear, you haven't got close to the line yet with Blow Your Load, because we've had Rob Moore on this podcast, and the line does not exist.
My darling, do you really want to challenge me on this? I don't think you do.
We haven't got long left. So I've got 2 more questions for you. You've been really generous with your time. Maybe in one of these answers you'll cross the line. Who knows?
Challenge accepted.
Question 1. What's the best mistake you've ever made?
Oh my God, that's amazing. I've made so many, I'm not sure how to pick them.
Yeah, well, you work.
I succeed big and I fail really big. I fail big. I make bad choices. I make bad business decisions. I've had business partners that haven't paid me. I've paid people who came into my business and absolutely destroyed it. I had to rebuild again. My biggest mistake I've made that I'm most proud of is how deeply I trust even when I get hurt. the minute I start living a different way, despite the mistakes, both financial, emotional, which are always combined for me because I'm very emotional, and they have crippled my business, I could be much further along than I am, much more financially set, positioned much differently had I not made those, but I would never be who I am. And now I would hate much more than taking a little bit longer. So I think every time I get knocked down, still getting up me is my greatest test, to not be like, fuck it, there's an easier way to do this. And I teach it and I know it and I can't make myself do it. Or I don't want to be jaded. I don't want to not think that people love and serve like I do. It gets me hurt a lot and I wouldn't change it for a bit.
Yeah, never change. Do not change. That's,
I can't. I've tried, man.
yeah, I had a long spell where I protected myself with sarcasm and cynicism and decided not to trust anybody, and the only person it hurt was me.
Yeah. You're locked in your own silo.
Yeah, you just makes you miserable.
Miserable.
And truth bomb, pretty much everybody in your life at some point will break your trust. It's just it's the ones that mean to do it are the ones you have to worry about.
Yeah, and the other thing you have to worry about is your expectation and assumptions of other people. Honestly, I was the common denominator in those bad decisions.
Yeah.
So if I allowed people to do that, that's on me. People will always take more rope than you give them.
That's a whole other podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, whose fault is it that bad things happen to you? Oh, like,
it's a doozy. I'm happy to go there with you.
Yeah, no, I love that. I go there a lot with myself about, like, as soon as you get into victim mentality, you're in real trouble. So if you take control instead and decide, right, well, how can I make sure that doesn't happen to me again?
And it doesn't mean that they were right in what they were doing and that you were not wronged, but it's how long do you stay there? What lessons can you learn from it? What meaning do you give from it? It's just about finding out how the hell you land there again and again and again. That's what it's for, frustratingly.
And very often it's because you're stuck in the or rather than the and.
Exactly. And the or is just the next best thing as opposed to the right thing for you. And that's why it happens in those incremental, like, well, it's here, but it's a little bit different. Yeah, because that was safe for your nervous system to try.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go from a shitty relationship to the perfect one because you are not yet that person who could handle the bandwidth of that. That would freak someone out. Your
comfort zone is the shitty place.
Exactly. And the success could be right outside of that peripheral view. You can't see it yet, so you can't have it yet. No one else is holding it from you.
And it's incredibly uncomfortable when somebody treats you differently. Even if that's a really nice way to be treated.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Wow, maybe we did cross the line there. That went deep. So, last question. This one's chill. What's your favorite film and why?
I'm going to give a very girly answer, which is really not like me because I'm a deep thinker. There's a movie called About Time. It's a British movie. It hardly showed here. It's not even on British Netflix. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's one of our team's favorite film.
I am obsessed with this movie. I've written articles about it. It's about time travel, but it's about time travel, but it's not. It was just about similar to what we talk about, is being present in your life. And it's couched in an adorable, very cute romantic comedy sort of way. And also for a Britophile, it was heavenly. We were in Cornwall and then we were in London. I was in heaven just from the scenery. And the outfits and the accents. But it's about how we're the ones who change our experience, and how at the end of the day, even if we could change fate, it's about being present and enjoying what is here, because that's how we actually change what comes next. It kills me. I've seen it maybe 40 times and I bawl my head off every single time. After that, it's Shawshank, which is just also true.
Yeah, but that's a quick way to make yourself feel sad on a Sunday.
Exactly. I seem to love that, actually.
Yeah, it's that, like, it's a good way of getting out deep emotion, isn't it? To just watch something like that. But it's funny how I would say at least 10 times in this hour, your answers and my answers come back to making the most of the now and always being in choice.
Absolutely. Oh, I just got goosebumps. Good job, Joel.
But that is the key to having the right mindset for marketing. It's knowing.
It's also the key to having the right marketing for your mindset. It's exactly that, because no matter how big we want to go, we have to stay present to now, because our market is watching us now, not who we're going to be, where we're going to take them. Our ideal clients are not ideal yet because they don't know what they don't know. So I call it, you're at the waterfall and you have to walk back to the car park. We know what they can have. They're trying to pick what trainers to wear. They have no idea what's coming. So if we assume that they can make that leap without us, we're setting us and them up for failure. It's how do you reverse engineer the road? Presence and presence and presence.
That's awesome. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Facebook or Instagram. My handle's Shari Teigman on both. You could shoot me an email, Shari Teigman. I answer every email. I love new people. I love learning. I think everyone has a cool story to tell, a cool perspective. I think that there's no one ahead or behind. We're all just cool, weird humans figuring shit out. So if you've listened and you loved what you heard, you want to fight me on something, you want to share something with me that resonated with you, just shoot me an email or a message on any of the platforms, and I will happily say hello and be the excited little puppy that I am when I meet new people.
Wicked. Shari, thank you for being an awesome guest.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Stay Hungry podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share, leave us a review. I'll love you forever. Visit andyandjoel.com if you want to know more about our coaching. We'd love to hear from you. Take care, everyone.